Would you risk the drop?
Anything.
Though your eyes go pop?
Anything.
When you come down plump.
And everything we risk traveling to keep you in the swing. Yes, we do anything.
Anything?
Anything for you.
We'll get to work then.
I don't really know how I got the part of Fagin. All I do know for sure is that one man wanted me to do it. Only one man in the whole world. And that was John Wolfe, the producer, the head of Romulus Films, who called me into his office one day and said, "Ron, we're doing a film of Oliver. Would you be interested in playing Fagin?" I said, "Yes, but there's not much chance, is there?" And he said, "We'll see."
Of course, I knew all along, my dear. Didn't mean to frighten you.
Then we proceeded from there to rehearsal and started rehearsing the numbers, and nobody had said I was doing it. So I continued to rehearse, and then we got to shooting, and it wasn't till the day when I played the scene with Oliver, when I sang, "You got to pick a pocket." You remember sending him to sleep? And John Wolfe came into the set afterwards and said, "I'd just seen the rushes, absolutely brilliant." And it wasn't till then that I knew I'd got the part. I thought I was going to be fired any minute, you know. The whole thing was too much to accept that I was actually playing the lead in a blockbuster musical of this quality.
Dodger, take off the sausages! Charlie, lay a place at the table for Mr. Twist!
I interpreted the character of Fagin 7 years before, of course. I did it on stage. I created the original role, Letty.
Such talent! Such a joker.
I didn't want to make people just laugh. I didn't want to make them cry. I wanted to do both on the turn of a coin. So I played Fagin as a clown. He was a clown to the bone. He was Tommy Cooper. You know, a funny man right through to his inner self.
These sausages are mouldy.
Shut up and drink your gin!
The makeup for Fagin was not an easy thing to do. First of all, we had about a dozen makeup tests. I had to go into Shepperton and try a different makeup, try a different wig. They even got me at one time to grow a beard.
It's got to be done quiet, no fuss.
And then they put on this whisky little chin piece, and George Frost, the makeup man, would lay in the hair. He'd pencil in the veins, put the eyebrows on, and at the end of the day, we'd both be tired out, so I'd come in there and he'd dab a bit of stuff on, take that off, and then whip the eyebrows off. And as a result, he plucked my eyebrows, and they've never really grown back.
Come here! Good boy. What a crook.
Well, I think the boys in the film respected Fagin so much because, for two reasons. One was that he was a very enjoyable companion. I mean, things with him were games. Everything was fun. He was teaching people how to pick pockets, but he did it in a fun way. He liked jokes, he liked laughter. And the second reason was he gave them a profession. They were pickpockets, they were somebody. And, you know, everyone likes to have function and status in their lives. They like to have something to do which is rated as important. And we might think they were little crooks, but not to them. They were big boys.
In this life, one thing counts. In the bank, large amounts. I'm afraid these don't grow on trees. You got to pick a pocket or two.
It was great fun filming Pick a Pocket because it was totally a clown number. It was all shtick, and it was never anything else, even on stage when we first did it. And some of the stuff from the original production stayed in, the stage production stayed in, but we created a lot of other things, like that marvellous dromedary, where one of the kids gets under my cloak and heaps it up, so I'm walking along with the four legs. And also you cheat quite a bit. You don't necessarily put a wallet in your pocket. You just want a smooth movement, so you do that and drop it on the floor. But I shouldn't tell people things like that, should I?
What did you tell him about us?
Nothing.
Fagin, I'll wager this young rat's told him everything.
When I first met Mark Lester, I was astounded to find this tiny little shrimp was going to be the star of the film. I mean, he was a handsome little boy, but oh so small and normal.
The Dodger tells me you have come to London to seek your fortune, Oliver.
Yes, sir.
Well, we must see what we can do to help you, mustn't we?
Lovely, lovely working with Mark. He was a sweet little boy and very, very nice, very good to work with. Surprisingly professional.
Good luck on your first job, my dear. I'll be waiting for you here when you come back. Line up.
Line up.
Single file.
Single file.
Quick march left.
Right.
Left.
Right.
You can go, but be back soon.
But when we recorded Be Back Soon, when we recorded the music, I'd had a bad night and I was suddenly called in to do it early in the morning, and I said, I can't really sing first thing in the morning. And I went in very reluctantly, very tired, and did it in one take. And it all came out. Cheerio, but be back soon.
I don't know, somehow I miss you. I love you, that's why I say cheerio, not goodbye.
My voice was placed in the chest. It wasn't thin as it had been in some of the earlier recordings. So that was great, to have got that so easily after expecting it was going to be terrible. That was a number that was probably the easiest one to do all through.
So long, farewell, if cheerio, we'll be back soon.
Great memories of Jack. I met him first backstage when I was doing a show, and he came back and said, I'm Jack Wilde. I think I'm going to be with you in Oliver. And I thought, oh, really? Because I didn't know I was in it. He was always respectful. He was always a good kid. And also, he was 15, so he had an actor's brain, and he gave really more than you'd expect.
What was that for?
For getting caught.
I was only practising.
I always said that if he hadn't grown up, if he'd stayed Jack Wilde at that age, he'd have been another Mickey Rooney. He would have been another big child star. But he grew up, became a man.
Yes, young man. And do I have the honour of your acquaintance?
That is my favourite scene in the whole film. It's a poignant ending. He's suddenly lost all these marvellous children and friends and companions, and he's all alone, and in this terrible London. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, his mate pops up, Dodger. Yes. That beautifully played scene, the light shining down on the cobbles, and as we skip off into the distance. In fact, I wouldn't ever want to touch that scene if I did it again.
This would come out rather worse for you than it would for me.
Ah, now, Oliver Reed, yeah, working with Oliver Reed was exactly like working with all the other children, except he was older. He was the biggest kid I ever met. And people are puzzled by him because he had this sinister, glowering look, those eyes, you know. And he loved to frighten people, but he was playing games all the time. He used to stare me out sometimes, but I always laughed it off, so he couldn't get to me.
Are you miserable, snaking, treacherous old...
No, Bill.
Although he had this reputation as a hellraiser, and sometimes rolled in on the set looking as if he'd been up all night, he never fluffed a line and was always there on time. Strange man, strange mixture of this desire to shock, this childish quality, and this incredible professionalism.
Such a professional.
What can I say? My favourite song in the film, it has to be I'm reviewing the situation.
Can a fella be a villain all his life?
All the trials and tribulation.
Better settle down and get myself a wife.
It was a brilliantly constructed number, and when I originally did it on stage, I set it actually because I needed to act it. I couldn't be given moves by a choreographer. I had to develop with each phase of deciding whether to leave this life or stay with it. And I think it's as perfect as it can be, and I'm not being arrogant. I would never want to do it again because it got what it set out to achieve.
Don't want no one to rob for me, but who will find a job for me?
Fagin's pet owl, it was the worst scene stealer I have ever known in my life. You know that an owl turns its head round 180 degrees. Every time the director shouted out action, the owl turned its head round 180 degrees and looked straight into camera. It was a camera hog. It just instantly, as soon as you said action, and looked. In the end, the only way we could continue and not take 10 times longer than we needed was to stuff it. I'm not saying we stuffed the actual owl, but it was a stuffed owl that was in place, so I could continue with impunity.
I think I better think it out again.
The first time I saw the finished film was at the press viewing in Leicester Square. When we were inside, every number had been cheered to the roof. And then I saw the notices start coming out, definitive performance, all canonisation of Ron Moody in the history of cinema, all, you know, marvellous notices. And I thought, well, maybe I got away with it.
That's all I wish.
I never forget the morning I was lying in bed, not too late, and my mother came into the room with a newspaper and said, "Ronnie, Ronnie, you've been nominated." And I couldn't believe, I just absolutely knocked out to be nominated for an Oscar.
Well, that's a surprise, I must say.
This was something I dreamed of as a little boy of probably 5 or 6, who was so screen-struck you'd never imagine it, thinking one day, I'll go to Hollywood and see all the big stars, and maybe I might even be a film star. And I was there, at the Oscars. Unbelievable.
Our line of business pays a little better, don't it, boys?
You're all right.
You see, Oliver, in this life, one thing counts. In the bank, large amounts.
I'm afraid these don't grow on trees. You got to pick a pocket or two, you.
Got to pick a pocket or two, boys.
You got to pick a pocket or two.
That's in the wrong key. John Green would be furious.